Hello, everybody. Oh, wait. Hey, everybody. You're tuning in to Mad About It. I'm your host, Becky. Becky with the good hair. That's right. It's me. Today, we're going to talk about sexuality. Just like as a concept, you know, just shooting the shit about it. We're just going to talk about a whole bunch of different shit. Why are we talking about sexuality? I don't know. There's just like a bunch of stuff that's making me think about this lately as like a concept. A little bit of personal stuff, but mostly just, stuff I see in the news. Yeah. Sexuality is like really important. It's also like the thing that makes you gay, you know, like what's the difference between a gay person and a straight person? Their sexuality. That's what the difference is. So, you know, I feel like it's a little bit ridiculous if we didn't talk about sexuality as like a whole separate episode where I just kind of like beat it to death. Because that's the whole thing that's the whole thing that's different, you know, that's the thing. That's the thing. Sexuality is the thing. So, what is sexuality? Well, in times of need, we go to Merriam-Webster. Merriam-Webster is not very helpful for this, in my opinion. Definition of sexuality from Merriam-Webster is the condition of having sex. I disagree with that completely. B, sexual activity. Couldn't disagree with that. More or less, it's like the same fucking thing. Anyway, expression. So C is expression of sexual receptivity or interest, especially when excessive. Okay, you had me right until the second point, especially when excessive. I don't understand. It's like a slut-shamey definition. What? Merriam-Webster since 1828. I guess, you know, they're really just fucking since 1828. They're gonna burn you at the stake about this. Makes no goddamn sense. Alright, I'm gonna look for a different definition of this. I was like, I love Merriam-Webster, but this makes me pissed. Sexuality definition. Yeah, that's what I do. This is the research that I do. I just Google it, just like fucking anybody else. Says Merriam-Webster. Alright, we're not gonna do Urban Dictionary. It's fucking useless. Let's do, Oxford Dictionaries. Sexuality. Number 1, capacity for sexual feelings. That is warmer, getting warmer. That is definitely like if we were, I was always very bad at Marco Polo. But if this was a game of Marco Polo, it would be very close to what I feel the definition of sexuality is. Capacity for sexual feelings. The next one is a person's sexual orientation or preference. And then the third definition from Oxford Dictionaries is sexual activity. I just, for the Beckyverse version of reality, sexuality does not have anything to do with behavior. But we're gonna get into it later. We're not talking about my definition yet. We're keeping one more definition. Okay, sexuality. Okay. Hold on. I got it. Human sexuality is the way people experience and express themselves sexually. This is from Wikipedia. That's right. We're looking at fucking Wikipedia right now. You can turn it off if you want. That's fine. It's your choice. I think it's entertainment. So, it involves biological, erotic, physical, emotional, social, and spiritual feelings and behaviors. Yeah, okay. Because it is a broad term, which has varied over time, it lacks a precise definition. If this was, what temperature is that in Marco Polo? Like, I don't know, what temperature is that? And like, lacks precise definition. So, like, I guess if you're just swimming in the pool and you're like warmer, colder, and then somebody's just like, you're in the wrong pool. You know, I don't even know. Human sexual response cycle. Right. There are a lot of people that think that sex is like purely like a reproductive function, you know? I think it's obvious that humans use sex to communicate with each other because it's a really big core principle for me. So, okay. So, we've seen the Wikipedia and we've ignored it. We've moved on. We're going back to Becky's asshole. That's the source we're looking at right now. I really think that sexuality is your perception of yourself as a sexual being and how that, you know, how you interact with others. I guess that's like a really weird, like disassociated way of looking at sexuality. So maybe we can polish this up as the episode goes along. But that's kind of like what I've been like obsessively circling for like a month now. And that kind of brings me to like my explanation is like, well, you know, like, so if you're asexual, then you perceive yourself as just not being interested in other people sexually. You might still masturbate, you might still get horny, you might still blah blah blah, but you don't really associate your sexuality with any sort of like desires or instincts that you have as part of your like sort of self-concept. If you're bisexual, then you have attractions to men and women, so you can like perceive yourself having sexual relationships with men or women. You can imagine that as enjoyable. If you're pansexual, you have many sexual attractions to many different genders and sexual orientation sort of thing. You know, you're pan, you're all of it. I really think I should interview somebody about like bisexual versus pansexual. Like, I just kind of feel like most people that identify as bisexual like would identify as pansexual if they had the opportunity to like have their perspective changed about a gender non-conforming person, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't know I don't know if everybody that identifies as bisexual is really like, you know, not also kind of secretly pan, you know? It's a rude assumption. Not rude. So it's a leap to make, but, you know, I think that, certainly the same sort of person that is bisexual is likely to be pansexual. And I think that that's like pretty normal. You know, I think it's going to feed into my point later, but I think that sexuality is kind of a constantly changing and evolving sort of thing because it's rooted in discovery. So, you know, your perspective on yourself and your perspective on your relationships and your perspective on your interests and your desires and your thoughts and your hopes and your dreams and your aspirations and your past and your present and your future, all these different sorts of things build a self-concept, and your sexuality is an essential part of that self-concept. And as you discover more about yourself, you might discover more about your sexuality. And as you discover more about your sexuality, you might discover more about yourself. And your perspective on all these different sorts of things is always shifting. So, who is anyone to say that anybody is any certain sort of way? It's very difficult. The best athletes in the world were not that way right when they started, you know what I mean? Like, the most sexually liberated people in the world were not that way when they started. Some people are just, you know, very sexual people. Merriam-Webster seems to know a few, I guess. Jesus. I don't understand. Like, this third definition from Merriam-Webster: expression of sexual receptivity or interest, especially when excessive. That's what they think sexuality is. They think that it has an association with excess. So I guess, I mean, I just like fundamentally disagree with this. I'm probably just like being triggered, but I don't even know. I'm getting really distracted by this. But so if you're pansexual, you're bisexual, you're asexual, this all has to do with how you perceive your sex interacting with other people's sex. So if you I also really like, I really like the Oxford definition of capacity for sexual feelings. So if you're asexual, that means you do not have a capacity for sexual feelings. If you are bisexual, that means you have a capacity for sexual feelings for both genders. If you are pansexual, that means you have a capacity for sexual feelings for a lot of different people. If you are homosexual, that means you have a capacity for sexual feelings for people of the same gender as you. Or if you are heterosexual, you have a capacity for sexual feelings for people that are the opposite gender of you. And I'm probably missing something. Am I missing something? Oh my god. I mean, isn't pansexual like the same as omnisexual? Isn't omnisexual like essentially redundant? Like, aren't we beyond this? I don't know. Okay. So all I'm gonna say is that, it seems to have to do with your perception of yourself and the perception of yourself interacting with others. And having a capacity for sexual feelings. So I guess, I don't know. Maybe the perception of self is like stupid, and maybe it's like a weird thing. I think that they're tied. Maybe that's just I'm just like forcing my own experience onto this. But so I really think that understanding your sexuality and being a fully empowered sexual person is essential for your health. I think that repressing your sex and shaming yourself and denying yourself stuff is bad. So that does not make you entitled to anything. It just makes it so that you should not be self-mutilating, your thoughts and your feelings. If you have feelings for the same gender, if you have feelings for the opposite gender, if you have feelings for trans people, if you have feelings for any sorts of, any sort of thing, and the shame is not the answer. That leads to hurt. It's a form of like self-mutilation. To hate yourself for something that's so instinctive. You're not entitled to any sort of sexuality, but you are entitled to peace within yourself. We are all entitled to peace within ourselves. And other people can't give us that. But we can take it from, a little bit of self-reflection and, this discovery sort of approach to this. I do think that sexuality is a part of self-discovery that's really essential for just like, figuring out who you are and what your place in the world is, and like how you want to be seen and who you want to see, all these sorts of things. Like I said, it's a central part of being a happy, well-balanced person. So if sex is linked to perception, So if sexuality is linked to perception, then how is sexuality affected with time, age, experience, circumstance, love, personal identity, gender identity? Oh my god, like, such a good question, right? It's such a good question. So, like I said, you can make a really strong argument that sexuality is like a permanent state of self-discovery. Like, every time you have sex is an opportunity to discover something new about yourself, or just an opportunity to discover something new about, like, your partner, or something new about, like, anything, or just, like, just enjoying yourself and, being, like a real, authentic person. You know what I mean? It's very validating. It's a type of communication. So, you know, sex and love and romance and all these sorts of things. These are, you know, the language of love is like not just like a cheesy thing that people say for poems and stuff. The language of love is like a lot of nonverbal communication, and sex is a huge part of that. So if you are not able, if you don't know any words, you know, if you don't know the words to that language, you're gonna have a really hard time talking to other people in that language. And you know, I think a lot of it has to do with like different sort of like cultural things and social things. And we could go like crazy into detail about how fucked up all this different shit is. Like, there's so much crazy fucked up shit. There's so much stuff that makes women hate themselves and hate their sexualities and feel like having a sexuality at all is excessive, you know, and to feel like wanting to masturbate is excessive, or liking having sex makes you a whore. You know, it's like, oh my goodness, like, liking sex doesn't make you a whore. Honestly, I'm not even sure what makes anybody a whore. I guess it would just be like, are you making money, you know, as a sex worker? That makes you a whore. I guess, makes you a sex worker. It doesn't really make you a whore. It's just a slang term. It's a bad word, you know. I'm not sure about it. I'm not sure about the word whore, to be honest with you. You know what I am sure about? I'm really sure about how important sexuality and coming to terms with that is for an individual's self-esteem and an individual's confidence and overall, like, sense of well-being. If you're repressing your sexuality, there's a real good chance that you're going to set yourself up for, like, a huge sort of surge later. A lot of people end up getting addicted to sex. They get obsessed with sex as a response to repressing their urges for so long. Hypersexualization is a real big kind of red flag in the gay community. A lot of straight people like hate us because they think that we're all like sex obsessed. And I often get treated like a lunatic, sex-obsessed person when I'm just, like, shooting the shit with my straight friends and, like, talking about stuff that, like, I think is interesting. You know, if you so much as say intersex to anybody that's a straight person, they usually just fucking, you know, unless they're an unusual, like, enlightened sort of person, or unless you're, like, in an actual gender studies class, you're, like, gonna get treated like a lunatic. And it's worth it to get treated like a lunatic, because that person is at least gonna get exposed to that one time. But at the same time, it's not good when your one exposure to that is bad, you know, that's, and how do you make it not bad? I don't even know how you make it not bad. But anyway, so when you repress your sexuality, sometimes you stop repressing and all of that shit just like springs up, explodes. You got like 10 dicks in your mouth every day, and it's not good. It's not good for your self-worth to not have respect for sex and sexuality. And I think that that's where a lot of people get it wrong. You know, it's not just gay people, it's definitely also straight people. I think internet pornography is like really damaging everybody's respect for sex. I love porn. Like, I have like a whole episode about how much I love porn. You should go listen to my Crash Pad episode. Like, don't get me, I'm not an anti-porn feminist. Like, do not misunderstand me. I like pornography. What I don't like is like 99% of pornography. Like, all this like crazy shit that shouldn't be up there. Like, that is not what human sexuality, like, should be modeled after. I'm not saying that it's not what it is. I'm not saying that that's not, like, obviously it is what it is. Like, and unfortunately, like, we are all seeing this, but it's a very niche sort of thing. It should stay niche. You know what I mean? Like teenagers should not just be, like, in droves trying anal sex and stuff like this. Like, that's crazy. That's not, like, that's like, it's not normal. That's abnormal. You know, I don't know, like, I don't know. Everybody's just, like, obsessed with it. Everybody's fucking obsessed with anal sex. Like, I don't know, it is great. It is wonderful. We're gonna have an anal episode. It's gonna be dope. I'm looking forward to it. But what the hell? Like, teenagers should not be, like, obsessed with this. You know? I don't know, man. My girlfriend had this... I have to tell the story. I have to. My girlfriend had this straight guy friend. And this straight guy friend... He was like talking to my girlfriend as a friend, and they like went out and they had dinner, and she came back and she was like, oh my god, I'm never hanging out with that guy ever again. And I was like, what happened? And she was like, this guy, he was like, we were friends all through college, and now he's just like kind of a weird asshole. And I was like, well, what's going on? And she was like, he told me that he went out on a date with this girl that he like knew that he didn't think was attractive and like knew that he didn't like as a person, but knew that he would be able to have sex with her. And then he found out that she was a virgin, and he was like, what the hell? Like, I really don't want to be like responsible for this. But she was like kind of insistent about it, because I mean, I think she just kind of wanted to lose her virginity. But my girlfriend was like, but this guy is like obsessed with anal, and that's like all he wanted to do. And I was just like, this is just like so stupid. And like this only, I'm sorry, it's not that this is stupid, it's that the only reason that this is happening is because of pornography. I'm sorry, I don't believe that if there had never been porn, like internet porn that's like obsessed with anal sex, like magazine porn was like not this obsessed with anal sex. Like older porn videos, like 70s porn and stuff like this, like obviously like there was anal, but there wasn't nearly like as much anal as there was. Anyway, I'm like getting so obsessed with this. I just don't understand. I don't understand it. So, like, this guy was like, all I want to do is have anal sex. And this, like, poor virgin that he didn't like as a person, that he didn't think was attractive, who just, like, had no self-esteem. And we know this person, and we were like, okay, this person is very easy to take advantage of. And we told her, like, hey, you shouldn't, like, we told her, like, you shouldn't date this guy. But she did anyway. And then, I don't know, I don't even know, I guess this is like a terrible storytelling. I'm not sure if she went through with it or what. I didn't pay attention. That's the sort of thing that you like wouldn't like, I don't know, I feel like you would like talk about this scenario and then just like ghost. And I think that's what happened. She just kind of like didn't tell us. So who knows? But I don't understand. Like I don't get it. I don't get it. It's like such a weirdly specific and like very selfish way of going about things that makes like no sense. And it's like using people as like toy puppets, you know? I understand just wanting to hook up with somebody. I understand that. I'm not even like, I know this is terrible. I'm not even that pissed that he was like, not interested. You know, like, I understand. I've met a lot of guys that are in this situation. I have a lot of guy friends that are like, I don't like this person, I blah, 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 I just really need to have sex right now. And I know that that's like probably something that I shouldn't be like accepting of or whatever, but like that makes sense to me. So it just totally fucking makes sense. So like I don't get mad about that. What I get mad about is that all he wanted to do was this like specific pornography thing. That's what it was. He wanted to do a specific porno thing with this random person. Like as if it's like an Uber, you know, like as if it's like, okay, I can get onto Grindr or I can get onto Tinder or whatever the fuck your app is, and I'm gonna find this person of this ethnicity and these interests, and I'm gonna get this sex act with them. And it's like ordering a fucking pizza. And I know that everybody's complaining about this shit and these jokes are old, but like what version of human sexuality is this? This is not communication. This is not what I like planned a fucking episode about. I'm like really upset about it. But it just doesn't make any sense. Like it's not that I'm a hopeless romantic, it's that I just literally like I'm a hopeless conversationalist, you know? I just want to have like a real human interaction with somebody that also, you know, doesn't just want to fuck me in the ass and then leave because it was like pineapple pizza and like you're the only person in the room that likes pineapple pizza and everybody else was like, what the fuck, why did you order pineapple pizza? And you're like, that's my favorite kind of pizza. And they're like, I am allergic to pineapple. And you're just like, fuck you and your pineapple allergy. And just, you know, like what the hell? That makes no sense. I'm demanding better pizza parties than that. That's fucking ridiculous. We should all have better standards than that. I know that there's way worse things. You know, you can get raped, you can get murdered. All sorts of crazy, stupid shit that people do. But nobody should be in the situation where they're just like, oh, my life is so hard right now because the only people that I talk to are like ugly fat girls that like don't want to give me anal. Like, what? I tell you, sometimes it's like, sometimes I'm just gonna go ballistic, you know? Like sometimes I'm like worried about myself as like a public like danger. Okay, this is not what the episode is about. Again, we might have to just like switch up the order for this or something. But so this Logan Paul guy was like, I'm gonna go gay for a month. I don't like Logan Paul at all. He's awful. He's like full of shit. He's a garbage human. I really wish that he would just like shut up and stop. But Logan Paul was like, I'm gonna go gay for a month. Everybody's pissed about it because it like belittles homosexuality and like belittles the gay experience and like trivializes all of it. I just don't really have a problem with this. I'm sorry. Like, I'm not mad about it. I'm not mad about him saying that. I'm not mad about him doing that. I don't give a shit about Logan Paul at all. I'm not sure why I brought him up on the podcast, to be honest with you. Why? I think that you can totally just like have a gay phase. I think that sexuality is a perpetual state of self-discovery. So if sexuality is a perpetual state of self-discovery, then we should not be shitting on Logan Paul for suddenly feeling interested and comfortable with himself enough to potentially do that. That being said, this guy strikes me as the sort of guy that would be a total piece of shit about fucking everything and just be garbage all the time. So I don't really want him to get laid and I don't want anybody to have sex with Logan Paul. But if Logan Paul was just a dude that I worked at Subway with, if he was just like a Subway sandwich artist, I was just chilling on my shift, like shooting the shit with like, you know, call him like Drogan Lol. We're just hanging out with Drogan Lol and like Subway sandwich artist version of him. And he was like, I'm gonna go gay for a month. I would be like, good for you, dude. Like, have you always felt like a little bit bi? And he'd be like, yeah, you know, like I've always been kind of attracted to dudes, blah, blah, blah. I'm just gonna like try it for a month. And it's like, you know, if you've never thought about being gay and then suddenly you're like, hey, maybe that's cool, and then you end up being gay, then like, why would we be mad about it? The only time we get mad about it is when you're like, you like know that you're not gay and you're just taking advantage of people. That being said, based on like word on the street, like gay guys take advantage of each other sexually all the time and like don't really care too much. Everybody kind of understands that y'all just need to like bust a nut every once in a while. So if you're down to like not get too personal about it, that seems to be fine with everybody. So I don't really think they say, "Are you really gay?" before they start sucking your dick. You know what I mean? Like they know it doesn't seem like anybody really cares. And they probably shouldn't. You shouldn't have a gay test. There shouldn't be like a test of citizenship for gayness. You know, lesbians are really, really hooked on this. They're really terrified of their girlfriends and stuff like that not being really gay or something. I mean, I hate to tell you, but that's just like how it is sometimes. You just can't know because it's changing. And your self-discovery is a slow process that you don't really have like a true, you know, grip on. You're not really steering the ship. Nobody is really steering their ship. If you think that you're steering your ship and that you're like steering your ship better than everybody else, then like your iceberg is coming. You know, I'm not worried about it. You should be, but I'm not. All I gotta say, if Logan Paul wants to go gay for a month, he can go gay for a month. You guys know Mapplethorpe? Like super famous artist Mapplethorpe? Super famous artist Mapplethorpe was super famously gay, very, very homosexual. His stuff is like dicks. It's just dicks. It's like just naked bodies and dicks and stuff. Mapplethorpe had like a passionate affair with Patti Smith, the rock star Patti Smith. Patti Smith is very genderqueer, androgynous looking, but Patti Smith is like totally doesn't give a shit about any of your stupid gender politics nonsense. Doesn't give a shit about your labels. She doesn't fit any of these terms that we've made up in the last decade. She doesn't. I'm not even sure if she officially identifies as bisexual. She gets labeled as like the bisexual like craze, you know, like the David Bowie sort of like, you know, is that a man or a woman? I can't tell. Everybody's really into that. They have a passionate affair. Patti Smith calls Mapplethorpe like the artist love of her life. And they're very influential on each other. You know, Mapplethorpe is like the gayest person that there is. Like if you think that sexuality isn't like bigger than gender, then you've got something else coming to you. It's just bigger than gender. There's more to it than gender and gender identity and all these different sorts of things. You know, I think it's got way more to do with how people make you feel than anything else. You know, capacity for sexual attraction. You know, that's what your sexuality is. So, if you discover that you have an additional capacity for sexual attraction, does that make you one thing or the other? I'm not sure. What's the name for having a wide variety of capacity for sexual attractions? What's the name for having a very limited amount of sexual attractions? You know, what do you call somebody who, you know, technically fits the bill as heterosexual, but only ever has sexual attraction for one person their whole life, and it happens to be a person of the quote-unquote opposite gender, but that's the only person they ever love. Is that a monosexual? I think that's a monosexual. I think that's somebody who just only ever loves one sort of person. They just have never had, they know no more capacity to love than that. Speaking of which, this is like a totally separate rant. I gotta go on this right now. Heterosexual, the opposite gender. Isn't that what they say? Heterosexual, definition of Definition of heterosexual. A person sexually attracted to people of the opposite sex. The opposite sex. The phrase the opposite sex really just like bothers me. I don't understand. I don't understand how a sex could be opposite. I don't understand what about men and women is opposite. There is nothing about men and women that is opposite. We have the same fetus with different hormone surges. You know what I mean? There's nothing about us that's opposite. Like, estrogen and testosterone are not opposites of each other. From what I understand, I mean, are they? Are estrogen and testosterone opposites? Okay, so they call it the opposite, but it doesn't function, they actually function very similarly. So, like, okay. So, in order for men to have, a healthy sex drive, I guess they need, yeah, I don't know, so if you have more estrogen, then you're more feminine. If you have more testosterone, then you're more masculine. But everybody has both. Everybody is made of both. Everybody needs both in order to have a healthy function. They say that men that don't have enough estrogen have a low sex drive. That sounds interesting to me. But I guess what I'm saying is, like, they're not really opposites. They're just, like, complementary. Like, what about something being complementary makes it an opposite? Like, is peanut butter the opposite of jelly? You know, when two Legos fit together, are they opposite Legos? Like, what about those Legos is opposite? What about it? I don't understand. Is bacon the opposite of a pork chop? Like, is it? You know, like is bacon the opposite of tenderloin? I don't understand. Like, why? And everybody is just like, of course it's opposite. Like, men, like, estrogen and testosterone are opposites. Men and women are opposites. And it's like, well, I just don't understand. It doesn't make any sense that we would be opposites. It doesn't make any sense. It would make sense that we are variations on the same. And it would make sense that there's a huge spectrum of people that are all variations on the same. That makes sense to me. It makes sense that there are people that are born intersex and that they're a variation on the same. It makes sense that there are people that are born male and that there are people that are born female and that they're variations on the same. It makes sense that everybody looks the fucking exact same when they're little kids. Kids look identical to each other. Babies look the same. Babies look the same. Even their parts. And that, even their parts, y'all. Even their parts look the same. And the hormones over time is really what makes the presentation of the gender. But an individual's identity is not tied to their body. So, you know, a person's sense of self is not tied to their body. And just because I'm that bitch, I'm gonna go ahead and start quoting John Locke, because John Locke has some stuff that I think is just really important. John Locke is a really important Enlightenment thinker and philosopher. And body substance is irrelevant, in John Locke's opinion. So if you go to an essay concerning human understanding, it's you know, he regards personal identity to be founded on consciousness and memory and collection of experiences, not the substance of someone's soul or their body. So in this case, he's talking about, the soul as like a sort of borrowed thing. So in this situation, you could be a reincarnation of a soul, but you can never be someone else's consciousness. You understand? Like, a consciousness is a personal identity. And that consciousness is a repeated consciousness and a sense of personal identity of a collection of experiences over time. So it's like, when you're born, you might be someone else's soul, or not someone else's, but you might be a reincarnated soul, but you're not going to know. You're just going to be that soul and then collect a lifetime of experiences and forming a personal identity with that soul. And that is, that's what makes you who you are. So it's like, it's almost like it's a cooperation between the soul and life experience. And this is why I think sexuality is really, really important, because sexuality greatly affects your life experiences and your perception of yourself and your perception of the world and other people. So, and I think it's really important to mention that body substance is irrelevant. Again, we are all variations on the same. We are all just kind of like, souls in flesh suits. That's just in flesh suits. Some of our flesh suits are worse than others, but it's all completely irrelevant. And I think that sexuality recognizes that. And sexuality is like a really interesting way of both appreciating the body and also just appreciating the soul. I think that sexuality is a fantastic way of communicating soul to soul. And it's also a way of, shaping and discovering more of that soul through the discovery of personal identity. The more confident and the more courageous and the more established you are within yourself, and within the more well you are within your own soul, the stronger and happier and the better quality of life you're going to have. And your sexuality is a huge part of that. So this kind of sort of segues into the concept of like a fluid, ever-changing self. A lot of people talk about their gender being fluid. I think a lot of people could see themselves identifying with a gender fluid person. I think that's very true. I think that a lot of gender fluid people, are just hella relatable. It's relatable to be gender fluid. I think a lot of people like to think that they aren't sexist, the same way that a lot of people like to think that they aren't racist. It's just a constant state of discovery. I think that's what sexuality is at its core. Sexuality is a constant state of discovery. And, okay, real quick. Did we even talk about? So, this just feels like there's like a whole other thing that we could talk about with the philosophy of self and how we even understand a person being the same person moment to moment. Like, what makes a person the same person moment to moment? Like, is there such a thing? I'm not sure if there's any sort of easy way to say that anybody is anything ever. You can change your consciousness in any state of life, and every day is a new day, no matter what. Life is fucking crazy. And sometimes you lose your mind, and sometimes you change your gender, or sometimes you, get depressed or get anxious, or stop being depressed or stop being anxious, or sometimes you're feeling really good and doing lots of awesome stuff, and other times your dog dies and your mom's sick and you don't know what to do. And life is crazy, and all of these things affect your perspective, and your perspective is the whole deal. So, yeah. This makes no sense. This makes no sense at all. Yeah, people change. You change every day, whether or not you realize it. You are not the same person that you were 5 years ago. If you don't believe me, go look at, like, pictures of yourself from 5 years ago. Look at pictures of yourself from 10 years ago. Look at pictures of yourself 15 years ago. 20 years ago. Look at pictures of yourself when you're in high school. You look way different. Everything about you is probably at least a little bit different. My dad was, like, a completely different person when he was in high school, so says my mom. Because now he's, like, super conservative. She says that he, like, used to not be so conservative or something. I, like, don't believe it. I don't believe that he used to be less conservative. But I think that a lot of people think that about themselves. But, you know, what makes a person a person? What is a personality? What is that made of? Is that inherent? Is it like a response to things? Is it part of life? Is it part of growing? What is personality? What is sexuality? And how does then all of this have anything to do with anything? I think it's really important. I think that your perspective is changed the most by your sexuality. That's what happens. You know, when you realize that you're gay, you're just kind of your perspective changes. And when your perspective changes, like, it makes you look at the world in a different way. And that can lead to, you know, like, enlightenment in a sort of way, or it can lead to anxiety and depression. I think a lot of gay people are anxious and depressed about the fact that they're gay. Sometimes, you know, especially if you're in a place like I am and it's not so easy breezy. You know, you at least have to be smart about it. There's just a lot of people that are just kind of, like, flagrantly homophobic. Like, I was at Waffle House 2 days ago, and this guy right next to us was just screaming Bible verses the whole fucking time. Just screaming Bible verses at the top of his lungs. And the Waffle House guy on staff came over and started quoting stuff with him. So it's like, well, like, fuck. You know, like, everybody's just gonna start singing hymns in a bit. What am I supposed to do? Just eat my eggs and go? That's what I did. But, you know, like, I didn't want to have some sort of big-ass confrontation. It's not my job. It's not my job to, like, put my life on the line every day, talk to some crazy redneck with a license to carry about how he shouldn't be doing crazy shit that he's doing. Because it doesn't really fucking matter to me. I don't really care about your goddamn Bible verses. I don't really care about any of it. I think it's great that you have hobbies, because at least you're not, like, you know, but, like, I'm a little worried that there aren't, like, women in your basement, because your wife didn't say a thing the whole fucking time. She didn't say a word. So I bet there's women in your basement, because, you know something that the Bible really, really emphasizes? That women are submissive, you know. So I have a hard time with religion. This is like a whole different thing. But if you're from that sort of background, you repress your sexuality. It's like a form of self-mutilation. You gotta stop. Sexuality is an essential part of the full realization of who you are. And I'm not sure. You know, denial is the biggest river in Egypt, and that shit runs deep. That being said, gay people are not the only people that have all sorts of fucked up things with sexuality. Like, remember my, like, jackass straight guy story? There's also just straight girls that never come in their lives, never come with anybody. That is a lack of experience and a lack of self-discovery that might, you know, hurt you in the long run. It's a big misconception that gay people are the only people with, like, lots of painful baggage. Straight people have lots of painful baggage. Straight guys, straight women have lots of painful baggage. The nicest thing about being gay is that you realize that there's a lot of rules that are stupid that you should break. So if you never have that realization, then you might end up getting damaged and restrained by all these sorts of rules that you shouldn't be listening to and that you need to break. And straight girls, we're gonna have a solo orgasm episode, and that episode is for straight girls. People need to masturbate. People need to be confident with their own skin, confident in their own sexuality. You need to fully realize your sexuality in order to be the happiest version of yourself. So it's just one of the different spokes on your wheel that you need to have nice and strong and shiny. You know, you can't just like smash it and bend it and break it and then be like, oh, why does my wheel suck? Like, yeah, because you hate yourself. That's why your wheel sucks. Okay. Also, casual hookup lifestyle is like, you know, any sort of thing where you're not having like really qualitative like sex. It should be qualitative. You need to be having like, you know, emotional, intimate, communicative, like, you know, real like love banging. That's what's gonna happen. Sorry about it. It can't just be like, you know, pure sexual experience without like a lot of that like intimate communication. And it doesn't have to be verbal. It just, you know, it's gotta be like talking to your souls. That's what it is. People used to like have to do this all the time. There used to be like nothing else to do. You also have to like go to a concert to like hear music, you know? But now people just sit at their house and like watch porn and listen to music and they like never leave and they don't meet people and everybody is like completely starved for this type of nonverbal communication. We're starved for it. So, I mean, yeah, don't try to tell me. I mean, obviously sexuality is very important. You know, we've got lunatic white guys, incel guys, shooting up yoga studios and shit. It's fucked up as hell. People driving cars and the shit. People just targeting women just because of their gender. You know, obviously, like, Becky is a big old les. I'm not sure if I still count as a lesbian. TBD. I feel like, are you really a lesbian if, like, all you ever do is daydream about chopping your tits off? Like, I don't think so. But, this is definitely a very biased perspective on this sort of issue. You know, we could have a whole separate... There's like a quadrillion sort of gay man podcasts you can listen to. If you really want to listen to a gay man's perspective on sexuality, you have a lot of options. You can also just watch Queer Eye. You can do anything. Like, why is Becky doing this? Because there's nobody doing this. That's why. There's some people doing it, but they're not doing it like this. They're not this spacey. Ain't nobody this spacey. Okay. Alright, I'm fucking exhausted. I'm like so worked up about this. Why did I tell that fucking story? Anyway, TBD, this is like gonna be like, you know, it's not the only sexuality episode. Are you kidding me? It's gonna be a lot more sexuality episodes. This is, it's good, but like, you know, we'll have some interviews and shit. I like, you know, I'm like slowly but surely getting over myself. There's gonna be like interviews and stuff. Please don't just like leave. It's gonna be good. Alright. Grab one out for me. Love you all so much. And, also, why did we even talk about this? I got distracted because I'm getting ready for the second part of the music series. The music series is so fun. The second episode of the music series is going to be about rock, like queer ladies in rock. It's almost all ladies. Again, very biased, you know, half lesbian perspective. Oh, it's gonna be so good. We're doing like the Pixies. We're doing the Breeders. We're doing Sleater Kinney. We're doing what's her name? Sister Rebecca Tharp. It's like Maple Tharp. Nah, it's not. I like wanted to punch myself in the face the moment I said that. It's okay. We're doing a Bikini Kill. We're doing the Raincoats. And Kleenex / Lilliput. Yeah, it's gonna be the Slits whole. It's gonna be so fucking good. It's gonna be like the playlist of a lifetime. I want to be like, you know, I don't know if it's possible to overhype it. It's impossible to overhype it. This is gonna be the next level. Alright. So yeah, tune in for that. There's gonna be other episodes and stuff. Alright. Bye bye. Ta ta. Bye.